Okay, well, this this is part four of He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not, which is basically kind of a story of my life, I guess. And so the last video, which was part three, was some of the events that the more memorable events that I think would have an impact on my mental health, I guess, or something. The highlights or what is kind of a broad picture. And that video was about the first place that we lived at in Arizona. And so we're going to start this one out on the second place. This one, stuff is going to start changing. You're going to see lots. Um, really, most of it is not, not good, I guess. Um, like I said on the last one, I'll be sharing a well-rounded and honest message or story, with the audience, and that 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 will have me owning some of the responsibility. I could probably say it had to have, because I couldn't imagine having a child and dealing with some of these things. So um, I've always told my children that they could, basically come talk to me about anything, because there's pretty much nothing that I haven't done or experienced. And I know there's exceptions, and I get that, but I think you're going to see in this the beginning of that. And I've always said that, I'm just I've just really been lucky and blessed that I've made it through these different events with minimal. I don't know what word I want to use. Minimal. I made it through. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get stuck. That's what I want to say. Stuck in it. So anyway, I've decided because I've already said, in one of these, that my goal was not to paint my circumstances as, like, or my father or whatever, my stepmother, as the complete villain. So I'm gonna start out with the stuff that obviously I could have done better at. I guess the way I'm trying to say it. So when we moved to this place, it was townhouses. They were 2 stories, but there was 4 of them connected in a block. So our particular unit had well, not our particular unit, but our unit had an upstairs and downstairs, and the one next to it had an upstairs and downstairs. They were all just like that. Okay, it wasn't like there was apartments upstairs and then apartments downstairs. No, it was like you had both. They were stacked. Uh, what was the best thing of this place? I don't know if I would put that I really got my horizon, whatever. I grew a lot. Like I learned a lot. Yeah. and I'm not talking at school. And, I put that, I put some value in that, no matter which way it came. But probably the second is, it had a pool that we all shared, all the little complexes shared. And all right, let's just start in, I guess. So wasn't the most desirable neighborhood again. We are right off. We're like, you park your car under an awning, and then there's about the length of the car, and then there's like four lanes of traffic, 2 each way plus a turn lane. So it's 5 lanes across in front of our house, and it's like, it's right there. And I wouldn't say the speed was super fast, but I want to say it was probably 35 or 40. Very, very busy. Very, very busy. And it, all hours. And once again, a lot of alone time. Okay. Here, a lot of time that I could run free. And I always say that because I don't remember any of my siblings with me. But a lot of time also with me in the role of parent and watching them. Yes, a lot. So I don't know how that played out, as if maybe the parents, when they finally did get home, that I got to go outside, or if I snuck out while watching. I can't tell you. I don't remember. But I ended up making friends with another kid, I guess you'd say. Yeah, at that age you're a kid. And he was in 6th grade, and I was in 4th grade. And this would be the start of a pattern for the rest of my life, which is, for the most part, a preference for hanging out with people that are older than me. That's most often my preference. And this particular gentleman lived in one of the units right around the corner, and his mother was a house cleaner for people. And let's just say his father had spent some time in the pokey. And I believe the son, the one that I hung around with, the 6th grader, had been in some trouble also, maybe whatever. And we really hit it off, and my horizon was expanded. I started smoking for real at this location, secretly, more so than just stealing a smoke here or there from my mom or dad, without them knowing, obviously. But I was smoking, I don't know, a pack would probably last me 2 to 3 weeks, probably 2. It really depended. It depended on how much time I was free to be out and who you're hanging out with. But it was very much becoming a natural part of my life. And the cigarettes that I smoked, would be whatever I could steal. So whatever was whatever was not up in the little things back in those days, what was more on the counter close to where you could grab. So what would they be? They were Camels, non-filters. They were Pall Malls, non-filter. They were cloves. Except I tried that and I couldn't do cloves. That made me for some reason I want to say maybe Virginia Slims. My parents smoked Carlton menthol ultralight 100s, I think is what I want to say. I mean, I would know. I used to have to go buy them for them. And yeah, so that picked up. Also, what increased at this time was, my 6th grade, and there was a 5th grade friend that I hung out with. Obviously, because their age, they're going to be more into the girls, and that I think that started maybe a little, or at least for back then, a premature desire in the other sex. So the stealing wasn't just smokes. It was pretty much anything that I wanted. That I was, if I didn't have the money and I wanted it, I would steal. And so it kind of started out as stealing for want, things, and then it kind of, stuff that I would desire or need, and then the stealing or shoplifting, or what do they call it, shoplifting, progressed. So not only those type of things, but also started to include, I guess, just stuff you would desire, or almost like part of it became for the challenge of it. Okay, so the skill of it as you get better at it, like the game, and the game really wasn't between individuals completely. I mean, it was some, but it was my own challenge against myself. And as I've alluded to, there was, 2 times in my life that police were, well, at least 2. I believe 2 police, and there was 2 FBI. And one of the police incidences was at while we lived in this house. And I got brought home, and some type of probation. I had to do some community service at a library, and I'm sure there was some type of punishment that was involved, from my father regarding this incident, but I don't recall anything directly associated with it. Okay, so either I didn't, or it was so normal, or I don't know, but I don't have any. So we had cable TV back then, And this is also the first time I remember there being a personal computer in the house. It was in my parents' bedroom. All the bedrooms were upstairs. And it was in my parents' room, which was quite a bit bigger than our other rooms. And then uh, I don't I don't know how it was divided, but it was kind of weird. Um, there was a toilet. There was a toilet and a sink downstairs, the kitchen downstairs, the dining room downstairs, the living room downstairs. And then upstairs, right at the top of the stairs, was the bathroom that had a tub shower in it also. And and then it was the weirdest thing because you had to walk through a bedroom to get to a bedroom. They would that doesn't fly by code now. And so I believe, well, I don't believe it's what it was. The two younger, you know, my sister and youngest brother had that room that you walk through, and me and the oldest, you know, next oldest brother had a bunk bed in uh, the, the 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 backmost room. I started getting into audio at this time, and I'm not claiming to say that I was good at it, but I don't even remember quite what I was powering it with. But remember, I said I took things apart, and we were in an apartment complex now, so there's like garbage, you know, dumpsters, and so stuff's getting thrown out, and on and on and on. But I had this cardboard box, and I had all these different speakers mounted into this cardboard box. I guess that was my speaker box, you know. And then I had some type of radio that was cracked open or whatever, and I'm powering it off of this. And there was so much good music back then. There was, you know, gosh, what was there? There was Guns N' Roses, there was Poison. Oh man, I want to say in excess or whatever. And then I remember I absolutely loved this song. I still like it till this day. Tracy Chapman came out with Fast Car, and that was on the radio. You know, I was trying to think of what else was on the radio, but you know, we had tape cassettes then, and so you know, you could pretty much record any song super high quality off the radio or your from your buddies cassettes, you know, or whatever. And yeah, so I was kind of getting into that. And obviously, this is probably the beginning of when I'm getting yelled at to turn it down, you know. Um, and I, I, I don't remember a game console at this house that we had, but this other buddy, because I spent some time over his house and spend the night and different things. They had one, and I know which one it was because it had Duck Hunt and that Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and obviously Mario Brothers. You know, the one where you put it in and you push it down or whatever, and you know, they had that. Uh, so dad dad got into uh, remote control cars at this point, and then we could basically race them up and down the alley behind us. And I'm trying to think. I don't know. No, I don't know that I got one at this point, I want to say yes. And I had an RC10, and Dad had, I want to say it was like a Kyosho or some whatever brand. If I saw the brand name, I'd know. But his was 4-wheel drive. Mine's just 2-wheel drive buggy. And I think what lit this, I think what inspired this is my buddy. He had one. He had his was and Tanyo, or how, I don't know how you say it, but they made like the Bigfoot, I think it is, and maybe the frog, and they had those too, and so I would assume they had them first. That's probably what's got Dad getting them, and we spent a lot of time in the pool, a lot of time in the pool, and so what else do I remember? I just remember, for some reason, there seems to be more, like, I had way more unwatched time than I think a person should have at that age. I think so. I don't really have a lot about school. School was the same old, He's so smart and doesn't apply himself, and still no sports at school or anything. Pretty much hated PE. Hated, I guess there was still recess for a little bit. I hated, I just, because my buddy, I don't ever remember him at school, and so I didn't really have him to hang out with, and it just, I wasn't super successful at making friends, I don't think. I was just trying to think if there's anything more like that I could put in there. This isn't related, but it was really, really cool because across the street, those basically 5 lanes of traffic, there was some like businesses or something, like I don't know what they would have in them, where you maybe an accountant or something like that, But there was these absolutely huge trees. And apparently I still had some monkey in me, because there was lots of times I would spend climbing those. And they were the type of trees that would lay flat. They're huge. But they would go flat. And so you could basically walk around on them, as the branches went horizontal. And I just remember that. And then obviously you could get up on top of those buildings and then go from one building to the next, into another tree, into another building. And then there was also this building that on our side of the street that was basically between us, these sets of buildings, these apartment or whatever they were, and this kind of lone building with a pretty decent parking lot, which is kind of where we played a lot because it was empty so much, and especially after hours and weekends and stuff. And then if you continued further away from the apartment, that same direction, you would cross a pretty small street, and that was pretty much the convenience store that I would end up either purchasing or taking stuff from, for the most part. There was others, but So that's kind of the layout. But this building, I we found out, and I don't know if it was cheaper or what the reason was, but they inside of it, it was shaped like a donut. Okay, so it was hollow on the inside. So when you're on the inside, you could look straight up to the sky. Okay, if that makes any sense. And there was only, what would they call that? A courtyard, I guess, maybe. And there was only two entrances, and it was basically gates. Okay, these gates, and you couldn't get through the gates when they were closed. But there was a pop machine, and there were some bathrooms that were never locked. You know, one on both ends. But we would go in and get pop, you know, with money, you know, and another weird thing about it is wherever there was windows on the outside of this, because there was no other doors. The way you got into these little offices was from the inside courtyard. Okay, it's kind of a really weird. But wherever the windows were on the outside, out to the, you know, the walls, they like extended walls from the ground all the way up to the ceiling. They only stuck out like a foot or foot and a half or something, 2 foot maybe. And one time I figured out that I could climb up them, and you know, by shimmying between them, kind of pressing myself up, and I could get up on the roof. And then from the roof there was palm trees that were growing in the center of this whatever, and I could climb down them, and so basically I had a bathroom of my choice to use, and I could use the pop machine. You know, it was kind of like my fort, I guess. And then to get out, you would do just the opposite. You know, up one of the trees, shimmy, 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 and it wasn't bad. And then, you know, out. And I think this is the first time I ever had this experience. But I was in there one time around dark. Oh, and it was lit on the inside too. It was lit. Okay. And the bathrooms were always lit. I don't even know if the lights shut off. And I was going in to use the bathroom, and I walked in on a completely stark naked woman. Well, that was probably the first time I ever seen that. Maybe. I guess, yeah. I mean, my stepmom, I guess, when she was trying to kill herself that time, but not standing. Not. I didn't know what to do, so I climbed a tree very fast and got the hell out of there. And I don't know why I'm sharing that, but you don't forget that. And one of the cool things about my buddy also is he was really pretty good on a BMX bike. He could do some pretty good tricks, you know. Mainly jumps, like bunny hops and jumps. And so the way it was set up there, this is crazy, but he would jump us. I think the person that was furthest away from where he started was probably the idiot. I don't remember, that might have been me. But we'd all lay down, and he would jump over us. And I remember that as a memory. And I do remember two things from school. I don't have a whole lot. I learned that one of the projects that I had to do was, and this would have been for me in 5th grade, I do know that, is we had to write a paper or essay, I don't even know what you call it, but we had to write this whole thing on a state. And I don't know if I picked the state or was given the state, but my state was Massachusetts, which I'll absolutely never forget. And I absolutely struggled with that. I I don't know why it is I couldn't, because I think somebody finally told me basically what I was supposed to do to do this. Like how do I get like learn information and then turn it into a paper, like or whatever. I I really couldn't do it without plagiarizing or however they say it. I didn't know how to do it, and so then I would try like taking the exact sentence and then putting them in different orders, and I just really struggled with this concept, which is probably why it's still in my head, and I'm sure it rolls over into the other my other studies also. It's just the inability to do that. I remember getting a bicycle for Christmas, and it happened to be the one I wanted. It was a Huffy. I should have known Huffies weren't cool. I knew that already, but I got a Huffy. But it was mine, and it was cool. And it had these complete white discs, so you couldn't even see the spokes. It was just white disc. It was like I guarantee you, if you Googled it, you could find it, because it had it was a very, very unique look. But it was so cool. I don't know if I saw it on TV or what, but I got it for Christmas. And another memory I have there. I'm avoiding the I guess the bad memories. We would ride our bikes and stuff, and it's Arizona, man. It's warm out, and I wasn't wearing shoes just like normal. And our apartment complex, everything was stucco, and it was a very aggressive stucco. Like sandpaper is smoother. And I wiped out one day into the wall, not like T-bone, but like running with it. I kind of just whatever douched it into the side of this wall. And it absolutely just road rashed me. Different places on like the arm and shoulder kind of thing. But most importantly, I will never forget. I don't even know if I had a pinky toe left. Like, that's why I'm remembering it, okay? And you're like, this is important. I don't care. This is for me, so I can get my memories back. Another bike episode that you don't forget for two reasons. Oh yeah, I'm sharing this. I don't know how it is. I don't know what happened if I did the splits. I totally, completely destroyed my nuts on the bike. Like miserable. Like I have no memory the rest of my life that's as bad as that nut racking incident. I mean, I was just desperate for any type of help, but it didn't go away. I cannot convey how miserable it was. It was so miserable that when my stepmom came home, and I remember exactly where I was standing. We were outside. It had these weird deals. Our washer and dryer were outside in this little enclosed porch area. I don't know what you call it. But she says to me, basically, show me your junk, however you do that many years ago, from a mom to a son, who's fifth grade-ish, pretty mature. I'm smoking. She doesn't know about that. I'm shoplifting. Like, I'm a man. And she was, no, right? I mean, no. I said yes. That's how bad it hurt. Because I'm like, I don't know. Maybe she knows something about nuts. I don't know. Gosh. Anyway, so between those two things, you never forget. You never forget. Another deal that I'm sharing. See, I'm avoiding it. I'm saving just enough time for the trauma. Two more things actually, because where I was going to go, I have to back up to get there. So, at the if you kept going down the street past the weird donut building and past the convenience store, gas station, or whatever, and you keep going and you go all the way down following the busy street, at the very end is a huge shopping plaza. And I have two memories from that. One is there was this weird little just building kind of sitting in the corner. It was really weird. And I know this. There was also a Burger King down there and in this area. But this little building was empty for the longest time. And then a cooking joint came into it. And they made burgers and stuff. It smelled amazing. I don't know what the hell they did to their French fries, but they had these French fries and they put on basically like Lori's seasoning salt, but on steroids. And we would get those occasionally because they were to die for. They were so, and we couldn't really afford the whole burger and works, but you could get a thing of fries. But what got us up into that neighborhood, and I don't know, you know what? Maybe this was my punishment. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this is my punishment for shoplifting, is maybe Dad was going to teach me responsibility and everything that comes with Taekwondo. Or was it karate? Crap. I'm not trying to do either disservice, but we did that. And we got, you had to get all the garb, and I made it, I want to say 2 or 3 belts. My next younger brother was in it. I don't know that he was in it from the beginning. But I remember another weird, awkward spot. I was just showing my nuts to everyone. So we're in there, and one of the things you have to do, and you bought pretty much your jersey and all that stuff there because they sold it and it's easy. And you wore a nut cup, okay? And I remember kind of I don't know if he was the owner or the head Mr. Miyagi or whatever, but there's a little dressing room you go into where we'd all dress out. Well, I went in there and he had to make sure that I had, well, not I, he didn't take a liking to me, it was all the guys. He would size our nut cups. Like I said, I'm just getting them out for everybody. And I liked the karate or whatever. It was pretty cool. The gist of it was Dad paid for the private lessons, okay, and then everything else you did, I mean, at that building was free. Working out, beating on the bags, going to whatever the group stretchy spar type deals, that kind of thing, that was all included. And then I don't know if you signed up for like a lesson a week or how it worked, but but you also had to pass off the lesson to get to the next lesson. Okay, and there was a list, and that would be your colors of belts. So $10, $10 or 20. I think it was $10, and it was $20 with me and my brother. But do. Each one of these cards that represented a belt had what they called a kata. And a kata is kind of a beautiful thing, but also kind of a weird and stupid thing. But basically, it's like doing karate, like a karate dance. And basically, you do this whole dance, and it's all about form and perfect, this and that. And basically, you're kicking the crap out of all of these people around you that don't really exist. Okay, so like everything is kind of like a hi-ya or whatever, and so you took that opponent out, but then you immediately da-di-da into wiping someone else out, and that was kind of cool. And you had to pass off your kata, and I believe to pass off the kata was different than passing off the lessons. The lessons were by one of the instructors, which happened to be the guy that looked at my balls. But the kata, as far as I remember, you would have to pass off on it on one of those classes. You would, everyone else is doing their little kneely thing or cross leg. I can't remember how we sat all the way around the thing, and you would do your little kata, and hey, it would either get passed off or you failed and you had to practice more. Anyway, a lot of dumb story. I did go to one meet somewhere in that process. I did go to one meet. Completely got my ass kicked. Like, they came up. It was so much different because when you go to the meets, you're fighting. But you got to fight with rules. Kind of using the techniques you've used to kill all these bad guys in this very specific way. So I don't know if you were supposed, maybe it was like my Massachusetts project. Maybe you were supposed to take the move that killed this guy in this, or whatever, in this very specific manner as he's attacking you, and somehow turn that into, I'm going to kill this person on the mat. And you would have to like rapid fire, I guess, is how it worked. And you pick the one that you learned that would be best for what they're doing. I sucked at it. Absolutely. Basically, I went out there and just let them kill me, but not really, but pretty much, And I don't know. I kind of lost a little bit of interest, after that, just because I suck so bad. And also it was a pretty big event. Like, there's a lot of people there and all these mats. And I'm used to it now because as we've had kids and I've seen some of this. But I wonder if this was a little bit bigger because it's Arizona. I don't know. It was. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I didn't want to go get my ass kicked in front of a whole bunch of people that I didn't know and not know where to go. And so I don't want to say I quit doing it right after them, but I didn't stay with it. Like I said, I got 2 or 3 belts. Maybe I got 2 belts, but there are stripes. There, you got the stripe and then you moved on to the next one. I cannot remember. It's a long time ago. But I highly recommend the French fries. Just kidding. I really doubt they're still there, but they were, But what I did meet is another friend there. And he actually went to school. I don't necessarily remember hanging out with him at school either, so maybe he was too cool for me at school. But he was very good at the karate business. He was good, and he was in my grade, and but he had a lot of those cards filled out, by this point. I don't know how much his parents, had spent. I would go to his house occasionally, and we would either ride. Mainly, it was him. He would ride. I would ride on his handlebars. If he came my direction or whatever. A lot of handlebar riding, some peg riding on the back, but mostly handlebars. And anyway, he lived in an apartment complex that you could basically see from the school, which wasn't really close, but it also wasn't terribly far away. He I don't know that this is true, like 100%, but I want to say it is. Only because Grandpa had the big satellite dish. But at this guy's house, that he was a latchkey kid, just like basically we were. This was the first time I got introduced to porn. And it was his dad's, and he had lots of tapes of it. And I'll tell you, at first I didn't know what to make of it, to be quite honest. But I think I also, came to like seeing it, I guess, so. Let's talk about one other detail of the place that we lived in. Two more things. 3 more things. Oh my goodness. All right, let's start with this one. I got woke up one morning because remember I was telling you that I was the babysitter, and so I was Mr. Mom. I'll tell you, this did shake me to my core. I got woke up with extreme panic by one of two of my brother or sister, but immediately I noticed that the house was completely filled with smoke. And I go running into my parents' bedroom, which is where it was. And I open up the door because my little brother is the one who started the fire. I don't know how it was, but he was playing with, matches or a lighter. My guess is he actually just lit it, but there was a garbage can of papers, because remember they had the computer, so Dad's doing all of his Motorola crap. And he had lit that garbage can on fire, and it went from there straight up the curtains. And I'm guessing this wasn't the time period when they made stuff flammable on accident, because it sure as hell was not non-flammable. And as soon as I opened up that door, whoosh, and it was just a lot to process. It went straight up there, and the flames rolled back, and they damn near came to the wall that I was entering upon. And it was overwhelming. 5th grade down, I don't know. It was a lot, or 4th grade maybe even at that point. I ended up putting that fire out. The fire department got called also. I mean, it was for real. Because I mean, just smoke is just rolling out of, and of course they come home, and I don't remember once again getting in trouble or whatever for that. But it left it is a memory. And let's go with another one. In the living room, I don't know why. I remember we were listening to Beastie Boys. Beastie Boys was another one we listened to. You've got to fight for your right to party, and just trying to figure out dance moves and trying to learn how to handstand. And so I'm doing a handstand. I'm doing a handstand in the living room, because where else would you practice it? I mean, it's a big enough area. And I end up on one of my attempts flipping too far, and I go completely through the window to the outside. And and pretty much the only thing that got the wrath was my foot again. My feet seem to take the blunt of most things. But that glass is in there, and so, I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I was screaming. I don't know. But somehow I don't know what the connection. But the lady next door, I know she was like Chinese or something, Asian of some sort, and she happened to be a nurse, and she's coming over and fixing me up. And of course, people get called, and landlords, and it was a big old deal. I don't remember a punishment for that. So, the part I was going to tell you about this place, it was absolutely freaking gross, is there was cockroaches. Not one or two. No, and I am seriously not exaggerating, thousands. They would be in the fridge. They'd be smashed in the fridge seals. They're in the oven. They're under the burners. They're in the dishwasher, floating around dead. They're everywhere, everywhere, and they would come treat, and they wouldn't do shit about cleaning them up. So after you'd have to leave. Everyone would have to leave, and the floor would be just, they would be damn near touching cockroach to cockroach. Little arms in the air, disgusting. All of it's disgusting. I have a super huge, I don't know if it's a phobia, but no. There was a lot of meals that I couldn't eat, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But the thing is, they would just go next door, and then like a week they'd be back, and they wouldn't go all of them. They never left. But basically everybody would have to leave out of all 4 units, or maybe the surround. I don't know, but it didn't work, and that was the whole friggin' time we lived there. The whole time. I hated it. I can tell you this: my stepmother was working at Village Inn at the time as a, whatever you call them, waitress. And the reason I remember that is fresh baked pies, right? Daily. I think it's still their motto. Well, when they didn't sell at the end of the day, they could take them home free. We had pie always in the refrigerator. And I think banana cream pie is still my favorite. But there was every variety. every. It wasn't a bad deal. I'll tell you that. All right, let's squeeze it in. Oh, I got so little time. That means I can't dwell on it. I don't have a tremendous amount of stuff, but I do want to say that it's more than this one time, and it was variations of this technique. He was improving his technique. Nor did the old techniques go away. Okay, they just kind of like, oh, got another tool in my tool pouch. So the one that would happen now is, well, there's so many different variations of it. We'll just stick with the kitchen. This one would be, your punishment is going to be to wash the dishes, by hand. And Dad would pull out everything. There was nothing left in a cupboard unless it was a thing of salt or something. I mean, it was nothing. Every pot and pan and plate and Tupperware and shit that you never used. The holiday stuff, all of it came out. And of course, all the nasty roaches too. And they would all go on the right hand side. Well, they wouldn't even fit. They would go there, and they would be all on this island thing here. And you had to wash them. And you'd be like, well, that's not bad. What do? Sprinkle a little water over them and just stick them to the next side? Nah, well, you would think. But that doesn't count. No, you're doing it, and you're doing it right. Even though they're clean. You're washing every surface with soap and water, and rinsing it off, putting it in a rack, and then when it gets full, because you have so many friggin' dishes, you're drying them all, and then you put it away, then you go back to doing them again, and you do that till they're all washed, dried, put away, sink detailed out, wash rag folded just perfectly over the middle, the divider of the sink. And that would suck. But I don't know if that's like child abuse or whatever. No, whatever. Seems weird. But remember that other trick he learned with the writing sentences? Where like the work you did doesn't count, or another way of putting it, his strategy, the do it over. And so they would all come back out, and they'd fill the right hand to the side of the sink. They would fill the sink. They would be on the island behind me. You'd run new water. And this really was a game of breaking your will. I think more than anything. I don't know what else it could be, because you remember how I said before that you'd be glad if like the punishment started later in the day. So it didn't go as long. Well, that'd be fine and all, but he worked pretty late doing work on his computer, and so he had a pretty late back end. And you never knew how many times that would happen. Or he would find something on one, and you're like, this was clean to start with. I didn't even, but right, it's your fault because you're cleaning it. I don't know. It's affected me to this day. I don't really wash dishes. I kind of don't do anything with dishes. But there's variations, um, like the clean the bathroom or bathrooms with a toothbrush. All of it. All of it. Every last aspect of it. Under the toilet, the tank, and under the ledge all the way around the sink or whatever, the floor. Your kind of stupid toothbrush trying to, however that's going to work. That was one. I think the problem, and this because I'm getting to the end of this. I think the problem is you never knew what you were going to get. Okay, it was like you really couldn't ever do it good enough. It wasn't a quality thing. It was kind of like the helicopter. That's not going to work. Translation: you can't do it good enough. And the the other thing that was starting to grow and was definitely carrying on here was this kind of stretch, this how do I want to say it, that it's that he's not mine anymore. Like, it's not like we're not. Remember I showed you like this. There was kind of that divide, I guess. I was definitely starting to get afraid of him at this point, like physically. I mean, there was hitting too, But I think people already know that. Like 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 if I said child abuse, I think that's what child abuse, non-sexual. You would think of hitting probably and stuff, but that was definitely a deal, and the belt was still a deal. Like I said, this was not a normal whipping with the belt. This is leaving welts. You're naked, even at that age, and you're getting whipped so violently that the welts on all the way from basically your knees, back of your knees or whatever, all the way up to, I would say, about chest level would be a target, and you didn't dare turn towards him, because that would get it too. But the reason I mention these other things is because I'm sure they're not unique to his crowd, his kind. But this never knowing what you were going to get, and this, am I loved? Am I not loved? What do I do to be loved? It was really starting to pop up, which is I'm pretty sure was a portion of my rebellion, if you will. Also, I mean, what the hell do you think is going to happen when you keep sticking me in low-income neighborhoods with people are using drugs and bullets and guns and well, that's my classroom. Seems crazy, especially for a guy who's an engineer. You design stuff. So I don't know. I think I've gone long enough with that. I'll see if I can think of anything else for this house or whatever, this place. But the next home is completely different. Only when I talk about the home. The home. And the neighbors. But it kind of put us in this nice brick and whatever home where we could be silently whatever. I had some of it's torture, I guess, but anyway, I guess this will be the end of this house, and we'll go start the next one on the next one. All right, bye.